Hi, you are watching this video either because you're thinking about moving to New York or you're already in New York and trying to find a way to rent an apartment. Here I will give you some tips on how to look for an apartment in Manhattan. Manhattan rental market is different than anywhere else. Finding and renting an apartment is like, I would say, buying a house somewhere else in the United States. When you start looking for an apartment in Manhattan, you have to ask yourself a few questions. Number one is, how much are you willing to pay? How much do you have in your bank account? Do you work or live in New York or tri-state area? And by tri-state, I mean New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. What size of apartment are you looking for? What area of New York, in this case Manhattan, are you interested to live in? And when are you looking to move? Once you answer those questions and gathered your answers, next you will have to figure out what's your budget. In Manhattan, apartments are very expensive, and there are two types of properties. Ones are walk-ups and the other ones are high-rises. As far as walk-ups, the studio in walk-ups you can rent for about $1,800. One bedroom somewhere at $2,500 and two bedroom around $3,000. The walk-ups, they are hard to find. They usually come with broker fee because they're cheaper. They also come with other things like bed bugs, cockroaches, or mice. In New York, it's very common to have those things in older units. High rises, on the other hand, they're easier to find, they're better maintained usually. High rises usually cost, for a studio you would pay around $3,000, one bedroom around $3,600 and up, and two bedroom you can find around $5,000-6,000 and up. Of course, you can find luxury units which are ranging between 10, 20, and even 30,000 per month. Those ones I will describe in some other video. Normally, if you are new to New York, you'll be looking at about 15% annual rent broker fee. However, there are ways to avoid broker fee. You can always go directly to management company and rent a unit directly through the management company without paying a broker fee. It's usually applicable to high rises. It also comes with higher apartment price. Sometimes you can also try to find walk-ups without broker fee, but it's harder because property managers don't want to waste their time renting directly. Second thing you will come across is fake listings. When you go to look for an apartment to the websites such as, for example, StreetEasy, you will see a great deal apartment, almost perfect. You reach out to an agent and you'll hear a response such as, "Oh, this apartment just got rented. However, I have other options for you." This type of listings are usually created to grab your attention so real estate agents can get in touch with you. I would call them fake listings. Apartments in Manhattan are very, very expensive. I would even call them overpriced. Now let's talk about what are the documents you need to have in order to move into one of those apartments. No matter what you decide, walk up or high rise, you will need to make at least 40 to 50 times rent, meaning that if you are considering renting $3,000 apartment, your income has to be at least $120,000 per year. Some buildings even require 50 times rent, meaning for a 3,000 apartment you would have to have an income of 150,000 per year. And usually it's per person or per family. Some apartments in Manhattan require people to be legally married in order to consider that income, or they will want to see each person moving into that apartment making that. You'll have to clarify it with the place you're trying to move in to. You can also use guarantor. Those places usually require a guarantor to live in tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. For a guarantor, income requirement is usually 80 times rent, meaning for a 3,000 apartment, your guarantor has to make at least 240,000 per year in income. And the guarantor has to be also live in tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. If your guarantor is not working, he or she has to have at least $1 million in assets in their bank account. If you don't have a guarantor, don't worry. There are some agencies that are willing to act as a guarantor for you. You would typically have to pay them at least 1 times rent as a fee. For example, for a 3,000 apartment, you would have to pay your guarantor 3,000. If you are interested in how to find guarantor agency, comment below and I will give you some more information on that. Once you collected your documents proving your income, that you're qualified income-wise, you will also need to provide last year tax return. Some places require 2 years of tax returns. Usually they require 2 pay stubs. Bank statement showing at least 2 months rent and savings. For example, in $3,000 apartment, you'll have to show $6,000 in your bank account at least. 2 copies of ID. Application fee ranges somewhere between $75 per person moving in. For example, if it's a family of husband, wife, and 2 kids, you would have to pay at least $150,000, $75 each. Kids are free. You also need to have good credit, meaning most places require above 700 credit score. Some places will be willing to accept lower credit score, but they would look at your credit to make sure there is no significant events such as late payments, bankruptcies, non-payments, and things like that. If you have large debt to income ratio, they might still let you move into apartments because, for example, in some cases, people go to expensive schools like Columbia and NYU, and they have a lot of student loan debt. However, aside from having student loan debt, they have good history of payments, and because of that, their credit score is lower. In that case, most rental apartment companies will let you move in. Another important thing about renting an apartment in New York is timing. Once you see an apartment that you want to rent, I would highly recommend you to go for it because tomorrow it might not be there. And it's not a joke, I'm not trying to push anything on you. It's just how it works in New York. There are lots of people, there is a limited supply and a high demand. Especially if you're able to find a good apartment, meaning in a decent, clean building, relatively new, I would highly recommend you to take it on the spot, because it's not the place where you can go and shop around. When you're back, apartment might not even be there. Also, you need to clarify whether there's a current application on this apartment, because in Manhattan you will see many instances where apartment is still advertised and you're able to see it. However, someone is already put an application, but that apartment is just not taken off the market as of yet. Next important thing about renting an apartment in Manhattan is negotiation. If you see a nice apartment advertised for $3,000 a month, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rent it for $3,000 a month. You can always put your offer. For example, usually people rent an apartment for 12 or 24 months. You can put an offer 20% below advertised price. For example, on $3,000 a month, you can make an offer. I would say reasonable offer would be $2,900 a month. However, in order to make it attractive, you could offer to sign a lease of 24 months instead of 12. And I will explain you why some companies would be willing to accept it. Because in Manhattan, the way real estate agents make money is by getting paid OP fee, meaning management company renting a unit will pay real estate agent 1 month's fee. If you're willing to sign a lease, not 1 year lease, but 2 year lease, it's better for management company to accept as an offer, because it will not have to renovate an apartment 12 months later, and also it will not have to pay another OP fee to a real estate agent to rent it. Just keep in mind that even though there is always room for negotiation, it's New York, and there are a lot of wealthy people living here, so you might not necessarily get what you want. However, you can always try. It doesn't hurt. Once you find an apartment, you negotiated it, you placed an offer, you have to sign a lease agreement. Lease agreements in Manhattan are not always straightforward. In many cases, you will be offered 1 month free rent, and the way it plays out, I'll give you an example. Market rate on 1 bedroom apartment is $3,500. It will be offered for 13 months with 1 month free at $3,791 per month. Many places offer to enter 13 months lease with 1 month free, because once you want to renew this apartment next year, the rent that you'll have to pay will be not $3,500, it will be $3,791. That's why they offer you 1 month free. The other thing you might see in renting apartments is preferential rate, meaning that market rate for an apartment is $3,500. A management company might offer you preferential rate, for example, $3,000, meaning that for this year, for this lease term, whether it's 12 or 24 months, you will pay $3,000 per month. However, when your lease expires, the current lease term, of either 12 months or 24, the rent will roll back to market rate, meaning that if you were to renew this rent, you'll renew it at most likely 3,500 per month rate. And the reason most places do that is because New York is known for its rent stabilization, and management companies are trying to avoid having their rent to be stabilized at a low rate. I will create the whole separate video on rent stabilized apartments and how those work. This is my short video on how to rent an apartment in Manhattan with some tips. My next few videos will be on low-income housing and low-income housing lottery. Low-income housing in New York doesn't mean like low-income anywhere else. Low-income might be even close to $200,000 per family, because low income in New York is not low income anywhere else in the country. Watch my next video, which will be on low income housing lottery, how to enter it, how to collect all necessary documents, what to do, what not. And also after that I will create a video, or actually a series of videos on Long Island City. Long Island City is a place, it's a hidden treasury just right outside of Manhattan. It's very close to commute, it has brand new buildings. Watch my next video, I will talk more about it.